The tow truck driver had my Mustang halfway up the flatbed when I decided I was done being polite. My '67 Fast, back black with silver stripes, the nicest thing I owned, groaned against the winch cable. Rear tires scraping across my own driveway like a slow-motion crime scene. Two guys in imitation authority uniforms hovered near. My mailbox in navy polos with shiny badges, reading Cedar Ridge Community Safety Officer. Hands resting on cheap nylon belts like they were itching to arrest me for breathing. Behind them stood HOA President Lynette Harrow, arms folded, visor perfectly angled, clipboard held like a sacred artifact. She announced loudly enough for the entire block that, under Section 9.4 of the Vehicle Aesthetics Initiative, my non-compliant car was being impounded for repeated violations and unpaid fines. Told her it was parked in my driveway and she couldn't impound anything. One of the fake officers stepped closer, telling me to stand back, that I had been informed this was an official HOA enforcement action. He stressed the word official, like it somehow made his discount boots more intimidating. I looked at the tow chains around my car, at the knockoff cops, at Lynette's smug little smirk. Then I reached into my pocket, pulled out my leather case, flipped it open, and placed it gently, almost lovingly, on the Mustang's hood. The sun caught the gold just right. I told them before they went any further they should read that out loud. The first HOA cop leaned in, bored. Mid-blink, he froze. His lips moved, and only one word came out. FBI. The whole cul-de-sac went silent. Marcus Hale, that's me, moved to Cedar Ridge Bluffs for one reason. I was done living out of awful hotels. 12 years as an FBI special agent in white-collar crime fraud. Money laundering meant endless nights in beige rooms with art that was somehow both abstract and depressing. I wanted a garage, a quiet street, a place where I could drink coffee on a Saturday, listen to classic rock, and change my own oil. Maybe work on my cars in peace. So I bought the last house on Aldercrest Court, 3 bedrooms, big maple out front, in a wide driveway perfect for shooting hoops with neighborhood kids and parking my pride and joy, a restored 1967 Mustang fastback I'd poured half my life into. The HOA to me was background noise, a couple $100 a month, so someone else worried about the pool and front entrance. Landscaping? Fine. Whatever. Enter Lynette Harrow. Mid-50s, aggressively blonde, always in golf attire, like she expected a limo to whisk her to a country club. President of Cedar Ridge Bluffs HOA for 8 straight years, mostly because no one else wanted the job and she wielded community standards like a threat. Her kingdom consisted of cul-de-sacs, mail kiosks, and a Facebook group named Cedar Ridge, Neighbors and Friends, No Drama, which was about 80% drama. Her masterpiece was the HOA's community safety program, 2 guys named Brent and Todd in matching polos patrolling, in a golf cart with amber lights and a siren that sounded like a dying ROOMBA. I met Lynette once at Movin. She brought a welcome packet and a forced smile, handed me a binder thick enough to stop a bullet, and told me Cedar Ridge was a covenants-based community with very high standards. Opened it later. No above-ground pools. No visible trash cans. No political signs. No radios audible from the street. No project cars visible from front-facing windows. That last rule gave me pause. I glanced at my Mustang gleaming under the streetlight, shrugged, closed the binder, and went back to filling out arrest warrants for an actual Ponzi scheme. I paid dues, kept my lawn neat, waved at neighbors, stayed off Facebook. In HOA terms, I committed the ultimate sin. I minded my own business. The first courtesy notice arrived 3 weeks after Marvin. Subject, non-compliant vehicle storage. Your unlicensed classic car has been observed parked in your driveway outside permitted hours. Cedar Ridge does not allow project vehicles, non-registered vehicles, or visually disruptive automobiles visible from the street. I read it twice. My Mustang was absolutely registered, insured, and in better shape than half the SUVs in the neighborhood. I took a photo of the letter, then a photo of my license plate, and emailed the HOA. Vehicle is registered and insured, not a project. Please identify the exact bylaw I am violating. No response. Instead, I got a windshield violation the next day. Handwritten, unapproved vehicle oil leakage, possible environmental hazard. I checked. My driveway was clean enough to eat off. A week later, I woke to flashing amber lights. The community's safety golf cart was parked across the street. Brent and Todd were out with a tape measure, checking the distance between my front tires and the sidewalk. Lynette watched from the curb like a hawk in a visor, and then it became routine. Random photos of my Mustang? Anonymous complaints about revving engines at 6 a.m. even though I left at 8:30 in a completely different car. A new vehicle aesthetics section appeared on the HOA website, suddenly requiring older or cosmetically incompatible vehicles to undergo board review at the next board meeting. Lynette switched to her smug policy voice, saying they had an increase in less refined vehicles that didn't fit Cedar Ridge's character and that they needed to maintain home values. A neighbor raised her hand and said, "You mean Marcus Mustang?" "It's beautiful." Lynette's smile tightened. "It attracts the wrong kind of attention. This is a family neighborhood, not a car show." I didn't argue. I sat in the back, arms crossed, profiling each person like a crime scene. Meanwhile, Brent and Todd leaned into the fantasy. They added body cams, printed citation pads with checkboxes for grass overgrowth and garbage can exposure, and drove their golf cart like a patrol car, blipping the siren at kids on skateboards. They even stopped me one evening while I was backing into my driveway. Todd claimed HOA rules required all vehicles over 10 years old to be garage kept at all times. I told him I was pretty sure no such rule existed. Brent tapped a laminated policy sheet and insisted Section 9.4 had been approved last week. I scanned it. It looked like it had been made in Microsoft Word by someone discovering clip art for the first time. I smiled. Went inside, opened my laptop, pulled county property records, checked the recorded CC&RS, and archived versions of the HOA website. There was no Section 9.4. There was no vehicle aesthetics. An initiative. Lynette wasn't enforcing rules. She was inventing them. So I did what I do best. Started a file. Logged dates, comments, photos, every bogus notice. Not as a homeowner. As an investigator, then came escalation disguised as paperwork. A final notice. Vehicle noncompliance. Unpaid fines, totaling $2,450. Failure to pay may result in vehicle seizure and lien placement. A detachable citation at the bottom, complete with barcode. Labeled Cedar Ridge Community Enforcement Unit in a font trying too hard to be government-adjacent. I read it at my kitchen table. Eyebrows raised. Vehicle seizure from a driveway. By an HOA, I mailed a certified letter disputing everything, copying my attorney and the state HOA oversight office. Any attempt to remove my vehicle would be treated as trespass and theft. Lynette doubled down. 2 days later, the Community Safety Unit Facebook page posted a photo of their golf cart posed heroically at an intersection with a caption, "Keeping Cedar Ridge safe from illegal parking, junk cars, and threats to home values." My Mustang was badly blurred in the background. Then came the turning point. A certified letter. Stamped official enforcement notice. Do not ignore. On imitation government letterhead. It claimed HOA community safety officers were authorized enforcement agents who could impound vehicles. Refusal to comply could result in police intervention. At the bottom, in tiny, legally suicidal print, this is a legally binding enforcement action under state law. I stared at that line. In my professional opinion, it was spectacularly stupid. I saw at least 6 violations: immediately fraudulent representation, deceptive practices, misuse of mail, abuse of process. They were running a fake authority intimidation campaign. I scanned everything and emailed it, from my personal account to a contact at the U.S. Attorney's Office, with a simple subject line. Potential, HOA, fraud, impersonation, conflict, check only. I flagged the conflict, laid out the facts, and let them decide if it warranted review. Their reply came the next morning. We will take a The U.S. Attorney's Office emailed back, "We'll take a preliminary look. You stay in homeowner mode, Agent Hale. I stayed in homeowner mode. Which is how, 48 hours later, I ended up in my driveway watching a tow truck reverse toward my Mustang while Brent, Todd, Nit strutted around like they were starring in a low-budget cop drama filmed entirely on my property. Brent puffed out his chest and told me this was my last warning. I needed to step away because I'd been noticed, and they had the authority to remove my vehicle. I smiled politely and informed him that none of those words meant what he thought they did, and that he had exactly the same legal authority as a Costco membership card. Lynette's visor snapped toward me as she barked that they had bylaws, that they could seize property to satisfy unpaid fines. I corrected her calmly and explained, "Can place a lien after a hearing you never scheduled. But you absolutely cannot break into a vehicle parked on private property." Todd gestured toward the tow truck and insisted they weren't breaking into anything, that the driver was cooperating. The driver, poor guy, looked like a man who had unknowingly wandered into a bar fight wearing a shirt that said, "Hit me first." He muttered that the HOA gave him a work order and told him everything was approved. I sighed and pulled out my phone. Hit record. Slow panoramic sweep. The tow truck. The cosplay cops. Lynette's visor glittering like she expected applause. I stated clearly, "For the record, I do not consent to my vehicle being removed. This is private property. Any attempt to tow it will be reported as theft." Lynette shoved herself between me and the truck, voice going shrill. "You can't film us." "This is official enforcement action," I said. "Fantastic." "Why don't you repeat that on camera?" She pointed dramatically. "Officers, proceed." And that's when I flipped my badge case open and set it on the Mustang's hood. Time froze. Todd leaned in and read the words like ingredients on a cereal box. United States Department of Justice. His lips kept moving, but sound refused to join him. Brent took a full step back and whispered, Is that real?" I raised an eyebrow. "It's a federal crime to impersonate an agent. It's kind of a sore spot in my line of work. You sure you want to bet on fake?" Lynette let out a shaky laugh. "This is intimidation. You can't use your job to avoid HOA compliance." I kept my tone pleasant. "Absolutely right, which is why the U.S. Attorney's Office already opened a file. I'm recused. I'm just a guy in a driveway asking you to stop trying to steal his car." The tow truck driver set the winch controller down like it was a nest of vipers and announced he needed to call his dispatcher. He was already retreating right on cue. 2 black and white cruisers rolled onto the street, lights cutting across the cul-de-sac. Actual law enforcement responding to the 911 call Lynette had placed 15 minutes earlier, claiming I was hostile and threatening HOA officers. Apparently, she thought real cops doubled as her personal enforcers. They stepped out, took one look at the tow truck, golf cart, fake badges, and an FBI credential resting on a classic Mustang. Their expressions shifted from *ugh, an HOA call to, "Dear God, what paperwork nightmare is this?" *, I said calmly. "Afternoon. Special Agent Marcus Hale, FBI. Credentials are right there. It's called in earlier about a possible fraud situation." Looks like it escalated. Senior officer glanced at the badge, then at Lynette. "Ma'am, did you tell dispatch there was a violent homeowner threatening HOA officers?" Lynette stuttered. He is threatening us. He's refusing lawful orders. They're my officers." Todd, without a word, unpinned his shiny pretend badge. The officer's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, community security cannot represent themselves as law enforcement. And you cannot claim legal authority you don't have. You don't get to take someone's property." I raised my hands. "I'm not here in any official role. I'm just the homeowner. But for everyone's sake, maybe take a look at this letter." I handed him a copy of the enforcement notice. His eyebrows shot up. "Yeah, we're going to be standing by for this one." For the first time since moving in, I saw Lynette's confidence crack. The golf cart siren didn't chirp once the rest of the day. The fallout came in layers. Layer 1. Local. The police filed a full report, labeling the tow attempt a civil matter with potential criminal elements. They documented everything: the fake tickets, the badges, the bogus letterhead. On body cam, they politely warned the tow company to never accept an HOA work order again without speaking to the homeowner first. Layer 2. Legal. A month later, Cedar Ridge Bluffs HOA received a very different letter, this one on real U.S. Department of Justice letterhead. Signed by an assistant U.S. attorney whose reputation was best summarized as *.com, merciless, allergic to nonsense. It requested every document related to the community safety program, every bank statement showing how fines were processed, and copies of every enforcement notice sent to residents. The property manager nearly passed out. The board called an emergency meeting. I attended. I'd earned the popcorn seat. The clubhouse conference room felt smaller than usual. No lemonade, just sweating board members and towering stacks of paperwork. The AUSA didn't attend, but their investigator did. A woman in a navy blazer with a smile you only see shortly before someone's soul leaves their body. She laid the facts out with clinical precision. The HOA had issued fake citations nearly identical to government tickets. They implied law enforcement powers they didn't possess. They used certified mail to threaten seizure and police involvement they had zero authority to promise. And the money? Funneled into a discretionary community safety account controlled solely by Lynette and one board member spent on embroidered uniforms, a tricked-out golf cart, and a so-called training conference at a resort 3 states away. So, the investigator concluded, we're looking at potential mail fraud, wire fraud, and possibly extortion under color of official right. The fact that a federal agent lives here does not help your case. Lynette tried to rally. This is ridiculous. Everyone agreed to the rules when they moved in. People want enforcement. If we let junk like that, she jabbed a finger at me, sit in driveways. The investigator raised a hand. A restored classic car is not the issue. The issue is that you pretended to have legal authority and used that pretense to take people's money. The board's lawyer, who had magically appeared for this meeting, suggested everyone stop talking immediately. ***, 2 months later, the climax hit. ***, unmarked cars by the clubhouse. 2 agents in windbreakers, not my office. Conflict, remember? Walking in with boxes, county investigators standing by. They executed a search warrant. Neighbors watched from porches as agents carried out. Boxes of documents, computers, and a whole crate labeled CSO equipment. Someone captured a photo of Lynette being led to a car in handcuffs, visor confiscated, hair frizzing in humid despair. It hit the neighborhood Facebook group within minutes. The charges were not small. Mail fraud, wire fraud, unlawful use of law enforcement-like insignia, and filing a false police report when she tried to swat me during the tow fiasco. Brent and Todd folded instantly, traded their fake badges for plea deals, and spilled everything. The community safety program evaporated overnight, placed by a new sign at the neighborhood entrance. ***, Cedar Ridge Bluffs, HOA does not provide law enforcement services. Call 911 for emergencies. ***, they misspelled Bluffs on the first draft. That evening, I drove my Mustang in slow, satisfied loops around the cul-de-sac. No golf cart, no siren, no clipboard queen. Just the rumble of a V8 and the sound of a neighborhood healing. Lynette eventually took a plea deal, 18 months probation, $42,000 restitution to residents, 200 hours of community service, and a permanent ban from serving on any HOA board in the state. In court, she sat perfectly still, visor gone, hair limp without its usual arrogance. When the judge read the sentence, her face crumpled for just a second before she forced it back into the rigid mask she'd worn for 8 years. She stood when told, nodded when required, and walked out without looking at anyone. Her mugshot now. Public record captured a woman who finally realized that clipboards, bylaws, and fake badges don't shield you from the consequences of pretending to be what you aren't. If you want the full story final polish or thumbnail prompts, just tell me.